let's start in New Zealand with a man who needs very little introduction, our party founder and visionary Kim Dotcom. Kim is the most high-profile victim of state spying in New Zealand's history. Kim, please take the floor and tell us about everything you have been put through, what you have discovered and found out, and what is happening with you now.
Thank you, Susie. Hello, everyone. Welcome. This is a very cool night to talk about these issues of spying and what we can do with an anti-spy bill to try and rein things in. So as you all know, I'm in New Zealand and the United States government is trying to extradite me from New Zealand. And they indicted me in the United States with what they call the largest copyright case in history. The allegation is that a cloud storage website that I have created called Mega Upload has allowed its users to share copyright infringements on the platform, and that I, as a service provider, am responsible for that. And that is basically what I'm wanted for, to be extradited. Now, the problem that the US government has is that under New Zealand law, there is no criminal online infringement. So the New Zealand Copyright Act specifically says it's not a crime, it can only be pursued civilly. And there's even a safe harbor against any kind of criminal sanctions against an ISP that operates a website that is used by its users to share content. And the very reason why New Zealand has decided to have a law like that is because New Zealand was the largest shareholder in New Zealand Telecom, which is the largest ISP in New Zealand. And obviously, the New Zealand government did not want any criminal sanctions against the executives of the government-owned ISP. So these very protections in New Zealand are in place and should have protected me. However, as you all know, my family was raided in a massive military-style raid with 72 armed police officers, the Special Tactic Group, which is only deployed in terrorist situations or hostage situations. They arrived at my property with 2 helicopters and attack dogs, and it was a massive undertaking. And you can, of course, find the videos on YouTube in my YouTube channel if you want to have a look at what they did. But even worse, they spied on me. They used the GCSB, which is one of the 2 major New Zealand spy agencies, to spy on my family. And the way they have done it is very intrusive. What we know today is that they used my mobile phone, my iPhone, as an open mic. So for over a month, at least that was the original admission by the GCSB, did they spy on me. And they spied on my communications, and we know that they used my iPhone to do that. In addition to that, they installed a system that allows, basically acts as a cell tower. And all phones that were connected in or around the mansion, so including my neighbors, visitors, guests, they came over, business meetings that I had, they were all connecting to a system called Stingray, which the New Zealand government uses to surveil an entire area around, for example, the mansion. So not only did they spy on me, incidentally, they also spied on a large number of other New Zealanders who came to visit me, who had meetings with me, my employees. We had 52 people at the mansion working there. So all these people were affected by this spying. And only recently, I mean, after 5 years of waiting, we finally had a court hearing to determine if we can have an open hearing about these matters, or if it all has to be secret, if the submissions can be secret. And the government claimed national security, and they did not want any of this to be public and any of the hearings to be open to the New Zealand public or the New Zealand media. And their reasoning is that, potentially the processes, the methods that they have used could be exposed by an open hearing. But that is, of course, not true, because Edward Snowden has already released all the documents that show exactly how the Five Eyes spy on people. And the recent disclosures by WikiLeaks around Vault 7 show even deeper how they even use our entertainment devices, like our televisions, our gaming consoles, our home computers, to spy on us. So basically every device that you have in your home that has a microphone or a camera can be remotely used against you. That is the reality that we live in today, and that has been proven by the disclosures of Edward Snowden and WikiLeaks. So there's no reason for any court to say, the methods need to remain secret because it's a matter of national security. The only reason why the GCSB wants to keep these things quiet and not in the public domain is because there is so much more that we would discover in the court proceedings if we would actually get discovery. Because what I can tell you with certainty is that I'm not the only person who has been spied on by the GCSB unlawfully. We know already of 88 others in the so-called Kittredge report, which investigated this illegal spying. But I'm telling you, there are many more. There are thousands more, maybe even all of New Zealand. Because what the GCSB does, it has sensors in New Zealand that splice directly into the fiber cables, into the fiber network. So everything that traverses over the internet in New Zealand is being picked up by the GCSB. They have other sensors that tap right into every mobile network provider. So if you use a mobile phone in New Zealand, you make a phone call or you send a message, they are right there capturing all of that as well. And then what they do, they share that information with the other Five Eyes partners. And the way they do that, it's all being uploaded and made available in the massive spy cloud that the NSA has built in Utah. It's a data center of massive proportions, like nothing else in the world. They have enough storage capacity to spy on the world population and capture all their emails and all their communications for 50 years. That's how much capacity they have in that data center. And people don't really understand how advanced these systems are today. Obviously, they are not recording all voice calls and then keeping the originals because the data volume would be too high. What they do in a first step, they transcribe automatically everything that is said in a conversation into text. And then they introduce the text into the database, and they still keep the original communications for quite some time. But if, for example, the text does not reveal anything of interest to the NSA or to any other spy agency, if there are no keywords of interest in your communications, the original audio is discarded after some time, but they keep the transcript of every communication. Every call that a New Zealander makes is transcribed automatically and uploaded as text into the NSA spy cloud. So, people need to understand how intrusive that is, because whenever you are becoming a person of interest, all they have to do, just like a Google interface, they type in your mobile number, they type in your name or your email address, and everything about you, everything that you have said to anyone is available to them, at the very least in the form of transcribed text that is fully searchable and can be used against you. Now, if you ever do say something that is of interest for the NSA, for example, if you are a supporter of WikiLeaks, or if you ever made a donation to WikiLeaks, or you have expressed support for myself or people that are engaged in activism against this kind of privacy intrusion, you yourself are automatically added to a list where all your original communications are kept. So not just the transcript, but the original audio recordings of everything you've ever said. And you are a target where your phone can also be activated as a mic, and your other home devices that have cameras and mics can then be accessed. So you're making it into a pool of persons of interest. Now, this is the reality today. This is how it works, and it's much worse than most people understand. And since this happened against me, I've really read everything. I have a data security background. I was a hacker in my teens. I started a very successful data security business. And I understand how these systems work, because when I was young and I had this business, I was working for Fortune 500 companies and governments. So I knew the early days of these technologies, and I understand exactly how they have advanced and where we are today. And thanks to Edward Snowden and WikiLeaks, we get the full picture of what's happening here. Now, let me explain to you why it is so important that we fight this, because they are not using this system to spy on terrorists. They're telling us they need this to shut down terrorism. They're telling us, if you don't agree with this, the country is in danger and people are going to kill you and all that. But in reality, they use this system, this very powerful system that has cost taxpayers in the Five Eyes Nations hundreds of billions of dollars. They use that against me in a copyright case, which in New Zealand is nothing more than a civil copyright case. And here's the problem for them. Recently, in my appeal hearing in the High Court, a judge has agreed that the New Zealand Copyright Act is not sufficient to establish any kind of crime here in New Zealand based on the allegation of the US indictment. But the judge then went outside of the scope of the Copyright Act and tried to use other laws to justify my extradition. He went outside of the Copyright Act to find something else to allow for my extradition. And there is no precedent to that. This is a novel case here in New Zealand. The law is very clear. There's a safe harbor for ISPs against this kind of stuff. And we're going to win. Ultimately, I'm going to prevail and win, because let me give you one example of the big mistakes that they made. They went to the district court at the very outset of my case, and they had to request warrants to be able to do the raid, to be able to search my home, and to arrest me and to detain me. And when they asked the court for these warrants, they told them that under the New Zealand Copyright Act, what I've done is a crime, and that I could face up to 5 years in jail if I would have done this in New Zealand. And we know today that that isn't true, because in New Zealand it's a purely civil matter. And because the arrest warrants were based on a law that doesn't criminalize the conduct, I will win and they will lose. It's just a matter of time before this is all over. And what that will result in is that we will be able to sue the New Zealand government in civil court. We will get full-scale discovery about everything that they have done, and we will find out exactly why all of this happened, why the NSA was interested in me. And I, of course, already know why they're interested in me, because when I watched Collateral Murder, the famous leak from WikiLeaks about war crimes in Iraq, where helicopter gunships fired on civilians, fired on Reuters journalists, on children, and killed them. And the helicopter pilots and the radio operators were basically joking about it, and were acting completely ridiculously and completely against the law and killing these innocent people. When I saw that, I knew that I need to do something about it. And Mega Upload became a major donor to WikiLeaks. I was so upset, not only that the US government went into Iraq and Afghanistan based on lies, on WMDs that they knew never existed, but then when they were there, they were just shooting at everyone like it's target practice, like they're little targets that you can just eliminate and wipe out, and children die every day because of this conduct. And I said, enough is enough. And I think what WikiLeaks is doing is glorious. It's so important. It's heroic. We get to see the truth about what the dark forces are doing in our world. And that's why I supported them. And that is one of the reasons why I became a target to the US government, because I became a large supporter of WikiLeaks financially and also verbally. But then, a perfect storm happened, because the other problem was that the president of the United States, Obama at the time, he was running for his second term, and he was trying, of course, to win another 4 years in the White House. And Hollywood was putting him under intense pressure to do more against piracy. So it was a perfect storm for me. Not only did the deep state want me to, go down for my support of WikiLeaks, now a powerful lobby group, the lobby group that represents Hollywood, went to the White House and said, if you don't do something against piracy, we're not going to support you for your re-election campaign. And Hollywood is one of the largest donors to the Democratic Party. Obama raised over $100 million from those people. And Hollywood also controls about 90% of the US mainstream media. So everything that you are seeing right now, what's happening to Trump and all this aggressive action against him by 90% of the mainstream media in the US, is actually Hollywood saying, we don't like this president, okay? So Obama was right to be fearful to do something against me, or else he has these very powerful people that could destroy his hopes to get reelected. And what Obama did was two things. He supported the Stop Online Piracy Act, which was a very aggressive piece of legislation that would have allowed for large-scale censorship of the internet. and they started the investigation against Mega Upload, a novel criminal case that has never happened before and never happened since, which shows you that it was really a test case. And we did stop the Online Piracy Act, the Stop Online Piracy Act, by blacking out the entire internet. You know, Aaron Schwartz was involved in that. He spearheaded that, and he paid with his life because he aggressively fought against these intrusions, and they used the law as legal warfare to grind him down and to destroy his life. You know, I'm one of the people that now has to deal with this targeting by Hollywood. And you need to understand, these are commercial interests. These are people who pay politicians money to get what they want, to get new legislation, and now paramilitary action against an innovator, a computer nerd, somewhere halfway around the world in New Zealand. And the New Zealand government became a puppet to all of this power mongering by the United States and went along with it. And even when they found out that they messed up, that they got it all wrong, they covered it up, they kept going. And 5.5 years later, I'm still fighting for my family to be freed from this injustice. And I'm fighting to expose the truth. And part of that fight, for me personally, was the foundation of the Internet Party, a political movement that I hope is going to be a global movement that is going to fight against these aggressive intrusions, fights against the power of money in politics, and fights especially against the undermining of our basic human rights by these incredibly powerful, arrogant, illegal spy agencies that have become the world's largest criminal conspiracy to undermine our rights, to undermine the law, and to destroy those that don't agree with the state. And I will stand up to that for as long as I live. I know Julian and Edward are going to do the same. Barrett will do the same. There are many people organizing around the world to fight this injustice, and we are just at the beginning. And those people who do this to us, I have a message for you. You better be very worried, because the people are going to understand more and more about what you do, and we are going to take you down. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kim. Millions of people around the world have been really moved by what you've been put through. And in a strange way, it's turned out to be a good thing, in that it has resulted in so many people learning more about what has been going on. And because we have learned more, we can devise ways together to tackle it and to take it on. So I know that your family has been through hell in the last 5 years, but I also know that movements like this probably wouldn't have happened if things hadn't unfolded the way they did. So thank you for being a part of this and for educating everyone.